Hello and welcome to the interview with me, Sonali Krishna. The lockdown coincided with the peak season for soda makers, with the April-June quarter contributing more than half of the soft drink industry's annual sales of over 20,000 crore rupees, three-fourths of which are contributed by out-of-home consumption. Hence, the impact on this particular sector has been mammoth. Today, I'm joined by the Chief Executive of one of the country's largest beverage makers, Krishnakumar, the President and CEO of Coca Cola India and Southwest Asia. Thank you so much for joining us, KK. Truly a pleasure having you on ET Now.
I've been pretty okay. I mean, getting used to the new normal.
It's been a tough, and trying 4.5 months and counting for most of us individually and professionally. As the CEO and the man at the helm of such a large operation, being one of the most formidable players in the beverage space, this must have been extremely tough on you.
Yeah, I would say it was a new phase, a challenging phase, and the challenge was more because it was something which impacted the entire community, and so it was something which we needed to handle with care. And we went through that phase in a possibly good manner, in the sense that it had a lot of learning. It really changed our thinking on what we should do in a crisis. But I believe that the experience was something which was pretty good in terms of a learning experience, because it was possibly one of the biggest sort of tough situations that I have at least handled in my working career.
Absolutely. I think for all of us, this has been, our learning curve has been peaking. But having said that, let's, come down to brass tacks and talk about business impact, KK. Given that all of us were pretty unprepared, although we knew somewhat somewhere in the world, in China, this was happening, we were all pretty much in denial. And so it hit us, just suddenly. Given that, what have been the challenges for you in terms of actually getting manufacturing back, to levels of normalcy, to get your distribution going, all the supply chain bottlenecks? Because, India being the fifth largest, market for Coca-Cola globally, the impact of this very, very severe lockdown in India has been quite drastic on the overall numbers. I believe there's been a 12% decline led by India and other markets, but of course, India being a big impact in the overall scheme of things.
See, I want to take a step back. See, if you look at it, business doesn't operate in isolation. It operates in a community. And so in our case and in my case, we were operating within India. And as you rightly said, I think while we did have forewarnings, when it hit us, it was pretty sudden. So for us, it was very clear that we needed to take stock of the situation. And we truly believe that, yes, business is important, but business is something which we're going to do for many, many years and forever. So it's not something which we need to jump into it, because we know that even if there are impacts, that can be made up over a period of time. So for us, we looked at the larger picture of what we should do. And even when we contemplated in March as to what we are going to do, we said that we will start working in 3 phases. Because the first phase was we knew that the communities that we operated in, who are essentially our consumers, was going through a tough phase, because they were getting used to the whole new normal. And then we knew that our stakeholders, like the government, were trying to do their best and the right things for the community at large. So we felt that for the first phase, we would just not talk. We would not do anything more than get into action and do what we needed to do to ensure that we got our employees, our system employees, which is our bottlers, our customers, everyone into a good phase, and a good phase of being safe and also being mentally positive, so that we could go through this crisis even if it lasted for a long period of time. The second thing we did during this period was we said, let's step in and do whatever little we can do for the communities we operate in. So we mustered together about 100 crores with support from our global foundation, etc. And we invested it in two big activities from our perspective, which did some small sort of value addition to people. One is really hydrated and fed the migrant labor who were in a bit of state of flux at that point of time. And secondly, we worked with other NGOs to ensure that we supported the infrastructure in terms of PPEs and medical infrastructure across 8 states. So this was the first action that we really took, because we felt that's something which will really help us to, one, do something small to the communities we operate in. Number two, get a feel for what's happening. That was the first phase for us. The second phase, after a few weeks, we realized it was nothing but negativity and a lot of news floating around, which was not very positive in nature, definitely. So we said, like, we really stand for a brand which meant optimism and positivity, and we have gone through many crises in our 130-year existence. And so we said that we will start inspiring people. That's the first time we communicated, where we talked about how the human race and humanity triumphs through positive thoughts and positive approach. These are the first 2 phases as we really started preparing ourselves by having the right protocols, the right way to work to ensure that we can really start working and continuing business in a proper manner. When we translated it internally, it said the first phase was all about safety of our employees and our system employees, and ensuring that we had the right protocols so that we minimize the risk for them and for our consumers. And the second phase was to really, in a systematic manner, start the business. So we did this pretty much for the first 2 months of our operation during this crisis, by which time we had figured out and we knew how to really start doing business safely. And also we had a fair amount of easing of the lockdown. So we have systematically then got our operations back in steam. As we speak, we have 100% of our plants in operation. We have pretty much most of our distribution, which covers channels which service at home, including e-commerce, key accounts, etc. in operation. The away from home channels at the moment is not really open. It's opening up very slowly. So we are ramping up our distribution as we really go there. So the good thing is that we were able to really, in a very, very clear manner, shadow what was happening with the communities around us, what was happening in terms of the approach that was taken by the various governments. And within that, we were able to really start our business. Yes, was there an impact? There was an impact. But are we really scaling up in the last couple of months? Yes, we have scaled up. And we believe that we are in the right direction. We believe that steadily demand is getting restored, albeit it is mostly at home. Away from home is going to take a while. But I think it has been a very humbling journey, but a journey where we got supported by everybody, starting with our consumers, supported by all the government, state and central government, supported by our own employees in a systematic manner to really start building back what was a tough situation at the start of the lockdown in March.
Right. KK, I just want to take you back to that lockdown, March end onwards. The trend that one has seen across, especially FMCG companies and here specifically foods, we've seen while for most of the world and largely across the board, it has been very tough and trying times. For FMCG and food in particular, these have been, slightly better times, in fact, even good times. What was, the issues and the challenges that you face as a company, not to ride that wave, given that, there was nothing else for a consumer to spend on than just food and snacking, and people were in the initial phases due to anxiety hoarding, and hence the consumption had gone up, at least in urban centers, quite dramatically. What was the reason you could not capitalize on that curve?
See, basically, it all depends on the category you operate in. Number two, we were very cautious in starting our operations because we really didn't go all over the place to start with. As I said, the first phase was really starting our business back in a calibrated manner, where we adhere to all the protocols, both global and whatever is specified locally, and ensure that we didn't really take steps which were very ambitious to start with. So we were trying, as I said, we have always tried to be within what was happening in the community and didn't try to overstretch ourselves at that point of time, because we wanted to do things right. So that is one. Secondly, see, I think our business, the structure has always been split between away from home and at home. So there is no way whatever you did, you are going to get away from home to start, because that's actually the core of this whole crisis, that people can't just go out and they can't really spend time. So, and away from home is important for the business overall. Plus, during summer, it's even more important because everybody would like to walk to the neighborhood store and have a soft drink or have something to just indulge themselves. So that occasion pretty much disappeared. So that's where our category possibly was slightly more disadvantaged than other categories.
Right. KK, let's be real here. I don't think out of home is coming back in some time to come, right? So I think it's, and even if it does come back, let's say things are opened up, I think the fear factor is so etched in our own psyches that it's going to take some amount of confidence and some amount of exploration before we get back to, let's say, pre-COVID levels. Given that the out of home or away from home consumption has completely been sliced off for all soda makers and beverage makers such as yourselves, how much of that portion of that revenue is completely, sliced off due to this unfortunate catastrophe?
See, basically, first, I would believe that I would call myself a beverage player. Yeah. I think we are a total beverage company. Number two is what we are trying to research. It's a significant part of our business. Now, what we have tried to do in the last couple of months, or maybe more than a couple of months, is with good planning, we are really becoming more significant in the at-home channel. And we are also going to really start looking at how do we really replicate through communication occasions which are away from home at home, so that we really motivate people to pick up the same type of products and have it at home. So I think this is a two-pronged approach that we are taking up. That's one thing we have done. Secondly, to get our relevance back in the at-home segment, we have done a lot of quick adjustments in terms of our pack mixes. I mean, we are trying to get some magic price slots in, which will ensure that people buy more for consuming at home. That's something which is on already. Number three, we've gone in and got the grocery channel very significantly activated. We are really aspiring at one point of time in the next few months, possibly in the near future, grocery distribution, which really covers almost all the grocery outlets through multiple business models. That's something we have activated, and we are fast ensuring that it happens. And I think once our marketing kicks in to really push the home occasion, we believe that we will be able to really make up a lot at home. And then I'm real, but at the same time, much more optimistic and positive than you are in terms of the fact that the away from home occasion will come back. It will come back maybe gradually and slowly based on how the situation is prevailing in various parts of the country. We now have, as we speak, it has come back to some level. It's not like anywhere near what it was. But I think in the next 12 months, we should see the away from home occasion also coming back. But we would have compensated a lot through at home. And between the two, we believe we will be back to having a pretty robust business growth in the future.
Okay. If I asked you to assess, the demand side and the supply side, in the last 4.5 months, where from let's say a beverage maker standpoint, do you think the issue was the demand side or the supply side?
I would believe the issue was for us to start with definitely our ability to really start our plants and then ensuring we could in a very safe and proper manner have the distribution done. So I think that took us a while to figure out. So that was, I think, the starting point. As we started doing that and as we started really building up scale, we find that there is definitely a decent demand there. Obviously, this is not our peak period. But we find that there is definitely no stress on demand as we go along, except for the drop we would have from away from home, which anyway is not something which will get replicated. But we are seeing the demand at home is more than equal.
Is there a fundamental shift in strategy that you are looking at thanks to this event? Or do you think, are you looking at this as an aberration year where, even consumer choices, consumer behavior will be an aberration because of our circumstances? Or do you think there is some behavior that will shift forever?
See, from a strategy perspective, from a vision perspective, we're not going to have a huge change in the way we are looking at things. See, our primary focus was to build a portfolio of products which really straddle on one side indulgence and upliftment, to another side functionality. This was what I said many years back, and I'm keeping to the same strategy, except possibly this situation has catalyzed us to build the functionality part of it slightly faster. We've already got a lot of things done, and as we speak today, we launched 2 of our products which are extremely functional. Basically, Vita Punch, which gives you all your requirement of vitamin C for a day, and NutriForce, which has multiple vitamins, minerals, and iron in it. So that strategy is the same, but we have accelerated it. In terms of actually the second thing which is going through a change at this point of time is the way people shop. Convenience of e-commerce is starting to pick up, and everybody is jumping onto the e-commerce bandwagon. So there are multiple platforms coming up. So we were already there. We had an engagement platform called Coke to Home. So we were dabbling with, we were doing immersions during the World Cup, etc., etc. So we were having something in our hands. So we have quickly wired ourselves to all e-commerce platforms. We are trying to ensure that we have the depth in terms of participating in all the e-commerce platforms. And now we are crystallizing a more stronger approach to give consumer the convenience of buying our product by clicking. And number 2, we are also trying to create the virtual shop into a good merchandising place, because we are very well known for being a good company in activating the marketplace. So we are trying to replicate here. That's the second area where we have accelerated what we have been doing. And we are building capabilities of our people to handle these 2 significant changes we see now. Now, how this will finally be part of the final mix in terms of the changes will be part of the mix, we don't know. But strategically, we were much prepared for the world moving in this direction. I mean, it's not that this is, except this accelerated it at a pace which we may not have envisaged, but it is not that we were caught with something which was completely new. I mean, it just happened very fast because of the way the crisis evolved.
Right. KK, given that we are now, in the midst of a global economic crisis, and most definitely in the midst of an Indian economic crisis, you better than anyone else knows how consumers will behave. We're going to be becoming a lot more value conscious, much more than we were earlier. A lot of people have lost jobs, salary cuts, all of that in the mix. Do you forecast consumption per se becoming a lot more conscious going forward? And because of this conscious consumption, several categories being impacted?
See, the Indian consumer has always been very, very value conscious. They would want all the best in the world for the most attractive price. I mean, this is the average Indian consumer in parts. Now, this is going to accelerate that thinking, maybe more broad-based that thinking, both out of necessity and also out of prudence. So I feel this is going to have definitely an important impact. And this was something which one actually was building always on, because India is a market where you have to really be able to offer the entire range. So we had actually done some work, and I suppose you may be aware of it, which we have just accelerated and put in place. For instance, we really were concentrating on seeing whether we can get some local and hyper-local offerings. Now, we were testing a masala soda, which had very good reception. Now, we have got it at 10 rupees now. We've got the product available in the marketplace at 10 rupees. So we have now actually got products which is at 10, 15, 20, which essentially puts all the affordable price slots for the consumer. Besides, what we have done is for the at-home also, we are creating an entire approach or pack structure, which will straddle the magic affordable price slots for people at home. So this is something which we are working on, and as I told you, this is definitely as bring on because we believe affordability will be an important requirement for the consumer till such time that they feel more positive about it. See, I personally believe, as responsible businesses, we have enough ammunition, and we have also a role in shaping in our own small way how the demand pattern evolves, which in some small way will have an impact on the economic revival also. So I am a strong believer that it's best to do what you can to shape whatever little you can in this move towards positivity.
Sure, sure. Over the last, few years, I think you've been focused on three verticals, and if I may, call that out, between, let's say, your sparkling portfolio to juices to hydration, and you've been consistently working on them. If I may ask you, what is the current split between these three verticals? And I know you're always saying that the jury is out on how this will move forward, because that's the consumer's decision. But I mean, you're the man who's best poised to make an intelligent guess, given that you're tracking this consumer so closely.
See, my own experience, having been in this industry for a very long time, I'm sure you are aware of that. I think I hear a lot of buzz from outside in. I'm a strong believer in listening to this buzz because it's important for you to know about it. But I can tell you that in the last 3 to 4 years, which is very relevant for today's conversation, our contribution from sparkling drinks vis-a-vis juices, vis-a-vis hydration has been pretty much consistent. And even through this phase of the last 4.5 months, it's really retained the same contribution. If at all, it's slightly better than what we thought towards the whole thing. So I believe that the consumers need a bit of indulgence and upliftment. So I think to that extent, I think this salience shift may not happen in a hurry. It will possibly hold on for some time to come. But the onus is on us to ensure that we keep making it relevant. That's why if you take our sparkling products, we have launched sparkling with juice. Because with juice, we believe it takes out some of the barriers some of the consumers in India have. So we have to keep doing things by which we keep the relevance on. And I'm a strong believer that with that we can continue this sort of salience of these categories for quite a few years to come.
There is a narrative being built, and I'm not particularly sure it's accurate, but I'd like your view on it. There is a narrative being built that going forward, the rural story will gain more momentum than the urban story. I know in the past, let's say, 8 or 9 years ago, there was the same bet that was made on rural, saying rural will drive the growth more than urban. And the narrative seems to have come back in play. Are you in agreement with that narrative?
See, I have always been of the view that rural India is a very important opportunity for all of us, because the aspiration of the rural consumer is no less than the urban consumer. The rural part of India is very much dependent on agriculture, as you are aware, in terms of their economic engine. So they have gone ups and downs based on how the monsoon is, how the agricultural situation has been. So with this present situation, I think they have at this point of time, by God's grace, not been so affected, and they may not get, and I pray that they don't get affected. So that's one. Second, agriculture has been robust in the last many months. And I think the way, as long as the government keeps its stimulus for these people, the way they are doing it, it is going to be a robust part of the economy. And that is also all the more reason why we have created some of our products, because we do think they will come back. At the same time, I suppose urbanization is not a reversible process in India. I think as we get out of this crisis, I'm sure it will again pick up and it will start shining again. So I personally believe it's important for us to keep working on the rural opportunity, because that's an opportunity which is, in any case, for people like us, not fully tapped. And then keep our eyes on urban, and as things go on, really leverage it. That's how I would look at it. I'm not a person who believes one or the other is going to be running away.
Fair enough. Coming back to, let's say, plans and measures to recover from this very large decline in sales volume, what is your market approach going to be in terms of, spending more efficiently and effectively to, curtail whatever loss or minimize the entire impact?
See, basically, first and foremost, I think our outlook of India being a growth market has not changed even a wee bit. I mean, we are going through a bit of a crisis situation, but we are very confident that at some point of time, we will be back to where we were in terms of India being a serious growth market. So we are not going to anyway really relook at assessments, thoughts, etc. about India. We are very confident that we will continue to do what we are doing. Having said that, yes, we would look for efficiencies in terms of whatever resources we are putting in place, be it marketing, be it channel expenses, etc. That we would do it. See, our approach is going to be very simple. We're going to really scale up, accelerate the at-home business. We are going to see how we can help the consumer to. One of the fallouts of this at-home situation is that people are missing the me time, because you're always with some 20 people at home, or 10 people, or 4 people, depending on how big your family is. So it's you don't have the me time. So that's the big time for us, where people go out and do whatever in terms of their consumption. So we are trying to see how we can create that and make our portfolio also available to them to really do that. That's the second thing we're going to try to do. The third one, however much everybody is pessimistic or not feeling much hope, I feel the away from home will come, because I will come back. Maybe it will come back over 12 months, 24 months. We really don't know. But we are going to definitely start supporting our customers, start working with our customers to ensure that we do everything possible to make their comeback safe and fruitful. So that's something, that's the third thing. And the one overarching guidance is we are working to ensure that we complete our portfolio between indulgence to functionality, and also ensure that for all our brands and offerings, we have an affordable part of it. So this, in a very nutshell, is what we're going to do. And we will finally ensure that we are very strong in terms of ensuring consumer convenience by being a big player with the e-commerce platform.
KK, we know that you've been trying to get a better stronghold in the regional pockets of India, which is why you've also, yourself, launched a lot of regional and hyper-local products. I think the last one being spiced buttermilk. And I think you aim to continue to innovate in those verticals. My question is, given that, the sentiment across the country and the world is somewhat depressed, valuations would also, I would assume, follow suit and be somewhat depressed. Would this be a good opportunity now for you to go in for some aggressive acquisitions in the regional space to, given that there are strong players in the regional space, to bulk up, your portfolio and your share in the regional market?
See, at this point of time, we just don't have any set thoughts, because with our experience on playing some of these regional preferences, we have found success, actually. I mean, that's giving us a lot of confidence. As you are aware, we have a pretty strong distribution system pretty much in every state. We possibly have one of the good geographical footprints thanks to our bottlers and customers. We really have 55 plants. We literally straddle every part of the country. I mean, we must be one of the few companies who can confidently say that we are possibly present with a factory or something in every state of India. So we have that infrastructure. And of course, there is a lot of trial and error to be able to get a local and a hyper-local product working. But we've had actually reasonable success. It takes time. I mean, it takes a couple of years to 3 years. So I am at this point of time a strong proponent of the organic route of our finding products and moving it. And I want to leave it there because I don't know. But at this point of time, this is my thought process.
Fair enough. If you look at the top 5 markets in the world that were hit, of course, we're one of them. But, if you look at Brazil, Mexico, China, US, how are you juxtaposing India's revival as a market for Coca Cola vis-a-vis the other 4?
Okay, I'm going to be very biased because India. And for me, India is life. I mean, I love this country so much. So whatever anybody tells me, my view will not change. So I'm biased. So I'm being very upfront about it. I personally believe India will beat everybody to the blocks in terms of revival for our business. And I'm sure in many businesses as well. Because I think it is a necessity for us to revive ourselves, because we have such a large set of population to really take care of. And I'm sure that when we collectively work together, and I've seen so many such crises, of course, this is far bigger than whatever one has till now seen, but we always come together when there is a crisis and we really make it work. So I feel strong that we will revive. Yes, the big stress for us was it hit us during the peak period, But the revival after that has been pretty good. I mean, we have revived pretty fast. I mean, which is what has me having complete faith. At some point of time, we will get that upsurge as people get out of their fears and people start. Ultimately, the economy is driven by the citizens of the country, the corporations of the country, the governments. I'm sure we'll get together and we will revive this business quite soon.
KK, you decided as a company to go into a dark phase as soon as we went into a lockdown mode, and I think this was strategic. My question, I really want to poke you a little bit there and ask you why you thought it was important for you to go into a dark phase and not communicate at that point with your consumers. Why did you feel that it was okay to shut down, sit back, step back, reassess and come back? And why didn't you think it was important to, at that point, reach out and hold your consumer's hand?
See, well, first, it was something which globally was thought through. But I think I would have done the same, because I feel when a crisis of this magnitude hits you, it is important to understand where it is taking you. It's important to understand where things are moving before you react. I think the person or the company which really absorbs it, understands it, and gets off the block would be the ultimate winner. Because it's not going to be about who draws first. Because there's no point in just getting onto it without knowing what it is, what it means. The good thing is that since we have a global footprint, and many of us had traveled around and all that and seen it, we understood even at the start that this is going to be a pretty serious and big crisis. And we also understood that each geography is going to really go its own way. And India being a geography which has a high density of population, I mean, it's a very tough country to manage with this sort of a situation, because we are 4% of the land mass having more than 16-17% of the population. So we said, let's try to understand how this is going to impact us, understand what are going to be the cracks and crevices and the problems, and then we start building for that and emerge from it. So that was the thought process. In retrospect or hindsight, if I look at it, I thought it was a good thought process, as we are coming out of it, because we are not in this business for a few months. We are in this business forever. So it tells us all the right things that we should be doing to really be able to keep going in the right direction. So I think it was a good decision. I personally believe that we took, and not move in a hurry to do 10, 20 things at the same time. So, I mean,
I'm glad you brought about hindsight and what you could have done or what you would have done if, let's say, with this learning, this happened again. What would you say would be one of your key learnings from this lockdown? And if you had to turn back time and to do a few things differently, what would those be?
See, I have only two areas where we should have possibly been ready, but it's something which we are anyway ready. That's why we are where we are today. Otherwise, we would have reached where we are today. I think we could have possibly got our portfolio fixed slightly earlier. We were doing it in a systematic manner, which is the right way to do it. So that was one area. The second area is we were actually doing a lot of work in trying to scale up our e-commerce channel. And that is something which we could have really got a lot more of wiring done, so that we could have been right off the blocks on day one, because that was a channel which operated right through this period. So these are the two things, besides our acceleration of the grocery channel penetration. These are the three areas where we could have been possibly a slightly better place than what we were. But we were ready because we already were working on those places. We were just had to accelerate it during this period. Those are the three areas I would call out.
Sure. KK, there have been some investments made in the past by Coca Cola, which I'm assuming are now under review or at least renegotiation. One would be, of course, your commitment or your deal with IPL, and I think you're partnered with 5 teams, if I'm not mistaken. And the second big commitment would be the Coca Cola's sponsorship with ICC on ground. Again, I'm assuming that will come under the scanner and possibly renegotiated.
So basically, IPL is something which, a lot of news is going out. I mean, we even got the official official version from anybody. So I think basically we have on-ground collaboration with 5 teams. So we'll have to see how that pans out. So obviously, if it happens and there is something, then we will be there. On the ICC part of it, we are waiting for ICC to come back with a revised schedule. It's a 5-year contract. It was supposed to go on till 2022. So we will review it as and when it comes. So I personally believe, as I told you, we are not changing anything that we are doing at this point of time. It's too premature to take those calls. But we'll constantly be talking to these people and understand how they're going to revive it and what's going to happen. And then we will possibly participate to the extent we can.
Right. With your 2 launches that you talked about, in the functional space, you talked about one with vitamins and one with iron and zinc, and I think even vitamin B and all of that. Am I right to assume your focus going forward, at least in the foreseeable future, would be in the functional space? And I also want to initially ask you, where in the pyramid does it fall in terms of pricing? Who is it addressing? Top of the pyramid, or the middle?
See, basically, again, I'm going to reiterate the fact that the focus doesn't shift at all. Our focus is equal. And I personally would say that core for us is really our sparkling portfolio with Maaza, which we will continue to focus on because it's going to continue to be a significant part of our business. We are just closing the gaps in our portfolio. I mean, the vitamin launch is closing the gaps in the portfolio, which we had planned for. So we are bringing it in. So I believe that it will make us stronger because we will be able to offer something in the space. Now, each of the offerings that we have, we will try to straddle at least the mid segment and the lower segment because that's where the mass consumption happens in India. And we will have products for the upper segment as well. If you take something like NutriForce, we have this available for the mid segment, but we also have a smaller version of it, which is available at $10, which we have been experimenting in a couple of southern states, which will scale up nationally, and that will be available at $10. So we will do something like that on the Vita Punch also. So we just don't, anything we do, we want to draw it right from the bottom to the top because we don't want to leave any opportunity in terms of the Indian consumer not getting it at the right price.
Sure. I would like to request you to wear your industry hat for a moment and remove your Coca Cola hat and tell me how you forecast the festive season sentiment. Would you forecast this as muted, or would you say that it will be a surprise to most of us?
See, let me be absolutely honest with you. Whichever hat I wear, I think it's difficult to say because I know the heart of the average Indian wants to really freak out during the festive season, but whether the situation around them will permit it is very difficult to forecast at this point of time. I would believe the reality may be between very muted and very expansive. That is my view. That will be the reality. Because I know at heart it is very difficult for the average Indian not to celebrate festivals. So there would be something happening, but I suppose till this whole crisis goes away, for real practical reasons, it cannot be really as ostentatious and as big as what we are all used to. So that's what I would put it. But it's very difficult to take a guess. That's what I said at the beginning of this. See, I'm pretty cautious in saying that what is going to be the new normal, because it's all evolving every day based on how the crisis is evolving or going away. So to that extent, I would say this. So it cannot be life as usual. It has to be something between life as usual and terrible.
The $5 billion investment in India, which was announced, is that to be completed by 2020?
Yeah, it's pretty much on track. Yeah, it was 10 to 2020. That's on track.
It's on. So will it be? It will be completed by 2020.
Absolutely.
Okay. This event, not just for you, for the entire industry, how long do you think it will take for the industry and Coca Cola specifically to come back to track to pre-COVID levels?
See, I think for us, we are definitely coming back on track, and I'm sure the industry is also coming back on track. Our industry is coming back on track. It's been ups and downs, as you know, because the whole situation is still very fluid. For any of us to say, we are on track, but then what's going to happen after 2 to 3 weeks is something it's difficult to guess at this point of time. I believe if this goes through the progression of people finding a solution to live safely and manage themselves safely, and also with a bit of the medical world helping the situation, I think we should get back on track by the first quarter of next year or the last quarter of this year. But the real test for our sort of companies is going to be how it works out between March and June next year. That's actually the time. So if you can ask me this question in July next year, I can give you a good answer for myself and the industry.
Sure. Last question before I let you go. I know we've all been working out of home, and I know Coca Cola has also been doing so. Have there been any moves that the organization or the corporation has decided to make permanently? Anything that you've decided to move permanently because of this event?
At this point of time, the answer is clearly no, because I'm not aware of any permanent move the company is thinking of. So, and I will always say it at a point of time, which is now. Till now, there is nothing like that.
Okay, fair enough. Anything, KK, you'd like to add before I let you go?
See, I want to really just tell you that we tend to overreact during a crisis. And I personally believe many crises have hit humanity as long as we have been alive. And we've always come out of it pretty well. And what has really kept the human race going is this positivity that ultimately anything hits us, we come together and we win. And I am also of the same view. And I want to tell you one very, very important personal experience I went through. See, 18 months back, we took up a project to really grow apples on the hills of Uttarakhand. And we tied up with the Indo-Dutch organization to do that. And they said this is the first time it's going to grow in Uttarakhand, and it's going to be in 18 months, which is sort of 1/3 the time it takes in any other place like Himachal or JNK. So all of us were skeptical, so was everybody. But we went in with the positivity saying, if somebody says it can happen, it can happen. Believe it or not, in the month of May, these apples grew. And we had apples for the first time in Uttarakhand, which were plucked and sold. So ultimately, I believe that we should all together really, as industry, as companies, as citizens, try to really move this narrative from negative to positive, because finally we'll win. And if you see after every win humanity has, in 3 to 4 years, everybody forgets the past. And then they come back to normal. And I think we should do our bit to ensure that humanity moves in that direction. That's what I feel.
Fair enough, KK. Definitely your optimism has rubbed off on me. All the very best going forward. Hopefully things will come back on track. And stay safe, stay happy. And here's to a good innings going forward now that the worst is behind us, hopefully.
Thanks, Sonali. Wish you all the same. And I'm sure we will meet physically after some time.
Yes, definitely. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much.